Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Happy Monday. I pray that you are doing well. I am very happy to be coming to you live from the sun setting south of France. I am live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Today, I am going to be exploring some of these questions and answers that I have been teasing up over on Instagram. And that is, what holds you back in life? Now, a group of us were getting together talking about our goals for 2021. And almost everyone was super excited. I'm going to clip on my microphone. Almost everyone was super excited about the goals and the plans that they had for 2021. But there were some people that were saying, I am not at all feeling optimistic about next year. And so why would I want to set goals? And I'm like, okay, so what's blocking you from feeling optimistic or setting goals? Now, okay, I get it. 2020 was a hell of a year, and we have plenty of reasons to feel discouraged and, yeah, maybe not so optimistic. But there are certain things that we can control. The biggest thing that I think most people found in 2020 was this inability to control things. Like, we couldn't control whether we could go outside or not, what the markets were going to do, whether we would be employed or not, all of that, whether we'd get the virus or not, whether we'd get a vaccine or not. So what happens to us psychologically when we don't feel like we have a sense of control, that can like totally cut down on our morale. And so I want to talk about that one for sure. But some of the other things that came up when I asked people on Instagram to tell me what are the things that are, blocking you. People came up with some of the usual suspects, such as imposter syndrome. They were thinking like, why would I make some big goal? Like, who am I to think I'm going to write a book or do a TED Talk or find a job or find a mate? Another one that came up was fear. We're going to definitely talk about that one in this session. Shiny object syndrome. I know that some of my fellow entrepreneurs, you can relate. That's when you feel like you were just drawn and attracted to new things, or the multi-passionate people like myself, you're attracted to so many different things that you get into analysis paralysis, where you don't actually make any decisions or any goals because you can't really even decide. Sounds a little bit like Chidi from The Good Place, right? So if you'd like to, you can comment and let me know what are some of the things that have come up in your world. Welcome to Karen Joy, Om Shanti, Naman over in India. Taz, good to see you. Happy holidays. John in the UK as well. Lovely to have you tuning in. And of course, the lovely Sarah Kate. We miss talking to you on an almost daily basis over here. Thank you for tuning in. So, Eric, I'm very happy to hear that there's not much that blocks you. Right on. I'm very happy when we have people who feel like you're optimistic and you're going for it. But I want to just give you a little bit of context. As you may know, I am a big believer in conscious life design. And one of the things that came up for me several years ago, as I was sitting down with my therapist, as one does, I was in like complete overwhelm. So I was almost to the point of burnout. This was back when I lived in America. I was working for the Discovery Channel on air, and I had my own wellness center, and I just published my first book. So I was kind of running all over the place. And I remember sitting down with my therapist, and he said one key thing that really stuck out with me. He said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what he meant by that was, I was so committed to so many different projects and people and things because people would ask, and the good people pleaser in me would say yes, or there'd be a problem that I knew how to solve, so I would take on these projects. And hearing him say, just because you can doesn't mean you should, was the first opportunity that I kind of woke up. I mean, I was only in my early 30s, and it was just kind of like, oh, right. I don't have to say yes to everything, because I had been on that sort of track of overdoing, overcommitting. Anyone else out there like that, or am I the only one? I know that I'm not the only one. Thank you for chiming in. Jay Swift, you're in the house. Margareta, good to see you. These are some of the people I see on Facebook. And Kelly, I'm looking forward to meeting you as well over on LinkedIn for your summit or something like that. So anyway, for those of you who also have this pattern, I'm going to cover 3 different objections and fears and goals and goal blockers that came up. And this first one is that feeling of overwhelm and burnout when you have overcommitted. The thing that saved me was, quite honestly, just taking a step back and really asking 2 questions. 1, what is your purpose in life? Okay, so I'm already asking you the hard questions of the day. But what this did for me was it made me start to look at all of the activities in my planner. Are they aligned with what I say my purpose in life is? Now, in my early 30s, it was just like, duh, what? I'm like, I was a new physician. I was newly on TV. It was just like, I'm just here to do my jobs, like do my stuff, like be successful, right? But over time, I had to realize, like, no, I have a unique purpose on this earth. And all of that overdoing, I had to like unravel and see, well, why did I keep saying yes to those things? Why was I overdoing? And without getting into the long story of it, it goes back to childhood, where I had this message driven into me that you are meant to be productive. You are meant to do stuff. And if you're not doing stuff, then what are you doing? Are you lazy? So I had this belief that I always had to be doing something and achieving. And unfortunately, that carried, into all aspects of my life until I got to the point where I was totally drained. So one of the things that blocked me was not being able to discern what I was saying yes to and whether it really aligned with my purpose in life. Now, of course, if you're in a stage of your life where you just got to like make money, focus on the basics, then you do that, faux show. But I got to a point where I realized it was draining my life force energy. Not only was burnout and the physical and emotional stuff that went along with that, like taxing me, but it was also keeping me from my true purpose. So that's number 1. We're going to come back to that. And the second thing that asking these questions did for me is it opened up my eyes to see, what do I value? Now, if you don't know what your life purpose is, no worries. Let's start with what you value. And you can join me on January 9th and January 23rd for the Best You Yet workshop, where I will be leading you through a values discovery process that will help you start aligning your goals with soul. But first off, what are those values that actually drive you? They are your motivating force. And when I started to really look closely at that, it allowed me to start shifting my priorities and only saying yes to projects that were in alignment with my values and that would put me into a state where I was more likely to get some fulfillment. Is this resonating with anyone? Anyone else know what that feels like? I'm going to check our comments here. And yes, I am so with you, Taz. Relaxing is indeed doing something. And that is, of course, when it comes to burnout recovery, one of the biggest things that blocks people from recovering is recognizing that taking time off is totally legit. It is what you need to do. And oftentimes people wait until they are forced out of work, being hospitalized or near hospitalized, and they end up laying on the couch and feeling, well, okay, this is what happened to me. It wasn't burnout, but it was childbirth. After I had my kid, I remember feeling like I'm not doing anything. I'm not being productive. This is where I had to finally put an end to that mental program. And so we absolutely have to recognize that sometimes we just got to give the body what it needs. And that could be what you start to make your focus on. That might be one of your goals, to relearn how to nurture your body and your mind for optimal vitality rather than the people pleasing and all of these other things. Yeah? All right, so Carl House, what's up? Good to see you here. Haven't seen you. And yes, Raquel, I am very much looking forward to having you in the workshop on January 9th, where we're going to go through the system that I use and I teach for creating goals with soul. Rather than the typical goal setting or making resolutions, I mean, how many of you out there even make resolutions? I don't like them because to resolve to do something means like, ugh, you've finally given in and you're just going to do it because you have to. I don't want you resolving to do something out of force or coercion. Instead, I want you inspired by the goals that you set for 2021 and beyond. And so one of the ways we do that is to make sure that you know what you are inspired to do, what is in alignment with your values, and what is actually going to move you toward your longer range goals. So can't wait to have you all there. All right, so one of the other blockers that came up was a feeling of helplessness. So thank you for all of the peeps over on Instagram. If you're watching on the replay, thank you for your comments. So this idea of helplessness is a big one because, again, it kind of goes back to what have we all experienced in 2020, this sense that we couldn't control what the lawmakers were going to do with lockdown, whether people were going to wear masks or not. Like, there's so much where you could get to the point where you have felt like, I am helpless. There's not much I can do. So I want to take you back to the work of Fred Luthans. So he was out of the University of Nebraska, and he is the one who's kind of famed for creating the model of psychological capital, or PsyCap. Now, psychological capital it's like any other kind of capital or money. So imagine you can save up or build up psychological capital so that you are more resourceful, resilient, hopeful, optimistic, and where you can actually get things done. The cool thing about Luthans' work with psychological capital, or PsyCap, is that it all boils down to 4 ingredients. I know you've probably heard me talk about this if you followed me for some time. The 4 elements of PsyCap are HERO, H-E-R-O, and the H stands for hope. And hope is really tied to this sense of agency, this sense that you can control at least something in your environment. And so I'm bringing this up because the research shows that even when we as individuals or we in organizations cannot control the bosses, the government, the president, whatever, the one thing we can control is ourselves. And unfortunately, this year has pushed a lot of people into unhealthy coping strategies. No shame, I've been there myself, but there comes a moment where we need to tune in and actually engage in things that are going to move us forward in life. So even if we can't move around the country or move around the world because of the pandemic, the one thing that we can do is really start to face our own blocks or shortcomings or hang-ups. And when it comes to this idea of not having hope and feeling helpless, one of the things that we can do is to create goals that we can actually control and that we can actually pursue, so we get that little burst of dopamine, like we need to feel that feel-good chemical that we get when we start to set a goal and create a plan to achieve it and get into the process of achieving that goal. So we've got to leverage all of the neuroscience that we can here. And so if you consider that what you can work on is yourself, then 2021, I mean, 2020 was a good year for it as well, but certainly in this year that's coming up, you can now make goals that are tied to your own personal development. And as you can do that and take little steps, that will build up a sense of hope and optimism, part of that HERO acronym. And as you get feedback, seeing that you actually did what you said you were going to do, you get a little burst of that dopamine again, which adds to efficacy, which is the E in HERO. So HERO, or psychological capital, is hope. Efficacy, or self-efficacy, meaning I have the competency to use whatever resources I have to get ish done. Where there's a will, there's a way. The R stands for resilience, and the O stands for optimism. And so for me, I love this because there are research studies going back, I don't know, I think till the 80s, on how these factors can actually be built up. And so for those of you who are following me, I know I said this earlier this year, but my HERO course that is based on psychological capital and building resilience using the hero's journey and life writing, that is coming out in 2021. So you'll be able to have this online course and get my support in helping you overcome stuff. But I want to give you something that you can use right now. So whatever the block is for you, whether that is time or money, a couple of people on Instagram said that they themselves were the thing that was blocking them in life. What I want you to do is look at all of the areas in which you do self-sabotage, or you do use the excuse that I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I just can't decide. Whatever it is, make a list of what you consider to be the things that are blocking you. For each of those things, I want you to write down why. Because the things that block you might not block me, and vice versa. So sometimes it is a matter of our own perception, like we just perceive something as too difficult. Sometimes it's a matter of our own belief system that we feel like we are incompetent or incapable. Now, I'm not discounting that there are some big mammoth issues for some people to overcome. But what I want you to get into is a growth mindset and into that optimistic mindset. So however you answered this question on, are you excited for next year? And if not, why? What's blocking you? What are the obstacles to your success in life? I have developed a program that is in my book, The Real Self-Love Handbook. And it's a process of life writing with guided meditations to help you identify some of the limiting beliefs, the things that are blocking you, and then to go through a timeline of life events. So there's a free PDF and free guided meditations. Just go to andreapennington.com and you'll see where I say, are you living up to your potential? Take this life writing program to support you. And one of the things that you'll do is now go back in time and look at, if you can, when was the first time you felt that way? That you felt like, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I can't decide what to do. There's too many things to do. Or I feel like a fraud, like I can't do that. Go back in time and identify the first time that you felt that. Now, you may not get to the absolute origin, because for some of us, that was in childhood. For some of us, you may have been a baby or a toddler. We take on these beliefs as a result of the things that are in our environment, the way that we're raised and our exposures. And so what I want you to do is that if you can identify that first time, then in the life writing program, you can start to really evaluate it from a 360 degree. Because right now, for most of us, our childhood is kind of this, maybe it's a two-dimensional image in your mind. But what you want to do is to have this 360 degree look at the people that influenced you. Like, what was their state of mind? What was going on with them? At what stage of development were you when you took on the belief that only smart people can do that, or only this, or only that? When we start to identify the origin of these limiting beliefs and these paradigms, then we can start to rewrite them. So if you visit AndreaPennington.com, and I'll put this in the description of this video, so if you're watching on the replay, you can go straight to the Life Writing Program. It is going to help you identify the source of these blocks. Because for most of us, when you're like, oh, I know I should be doing more video presentations online, or I know I should go ahead and ask for that raise, or I know I should ask that person out on a date. You might try to go do a confidence course or hire a coach to coach you through it. Some of us actually need to go deep into the subconscious mind and uproot those programs and rewrite them and rewire our brain. So that is going to take repetition. It's going to take time and practice, but it's totally workable and doable. And I see one of our beautiful co-authors, Lena Nielsen, who contributed to this book here, Manifesting Love. Life writing is life-changing. And Lena is a perfect example of that. She's contributed to 3 books this year. And it's been through sharing her story, she went through my Stories with Soul life writing program, that we get this perspective that is so healing. Like, you can heal those old wounds so that they don't keep tripping you up. And that's really why I wanted to have this short little live discussion with you today. Because when I asked people again, all right, you've got this fear, but 2020 isn't the first time you experienced that fear. Oh, you had this big dream or this goal that you wanted to go after, but this isn't the first time that you've dropped it. In other words, we could see that there was a pattern. And that means if there's a pattern to you repetitively getting into these blocks, honey, my love, with all due respect, it's time for you to get past it. And right now, while we're still dealing with lockdowns around the world, this is a perfect time for all of us to face whatever has been blocking us, whatever excuses we've been throwing up, whatever junk is hidden in the shadow of our subconscious mind, and courageously heal it, face it, and then let it go. Take those lessons from what life has taught us. Sometimes they were painful ones, but the most empowering aspect of all of this life writing work, and you can read this in the research, is that when people take up pen and paper, or even doing it on a computer, what this does is this puts you back into the agent position rather than having life done to you. You get to decide how you want to write that story. It doesn't mean you can change all of the events that happen, but it does mean that you can alter the way that you think about yourself. Because we all have this story that we tell ourselves, about how worthy we are, about how competent we are, about what we deserve. And all of that we need to face so that we can let it go. So I hear you. Raquel says, will I teach how to let it go? You have the same childhood message. Stay productive to be successful. Absolutely. Raquel, what you'll see in the Best Year Yet program, and again, if you just do the free life writing program, it's there as well. The letting go process, for some people, it's instantaneous. We have people in our community who've had spiritual awakenings or some kind of hitting rock bottom, and they're like, I'm done with that behavior. I'm done with that belief. But for others of us, we didn't take on those beliefs after just one beat down on the playground or a spanking from our parents or being scolded once. Unfortunately, for most of us, we got these messages delivered at the various early stages of our lives and then repeated, and repeated. And what that means is that those beliefs that we took on, so I'm going to use this one about staying productive. One of our other authors in holistic healing is the beautiful Siv Harstad from Norway. And she grew up in a family up in Norway where the whole family was active. I think somebody in the family had a farm, so they were always outside doing stuff. And she said to me that when she burnt out, she thought, okay, finally people are telling me that I really need to take a break. The doctor said you can't exercise. Her blood pressure and heart rate were off the charts. And she said, but I just assumed I would take 2 weeks off or do a 2-week vacation and I get back to work, because she came from this family that said, look, if you're not dead, then you should be working. Go to school, go do your work. And so what I mean to say is, not only did we hear it for ourselves, like, Andrea, you need to be, school is your only job, like literally. Thanks, Dad, I love you. But literally, he said that to me at university. When I was telling him all these cool projects I was working on, I was the general manager of the TV station, and I was performing on stage, and I was writing songs with Jay Swift, who was in here. My dad would just be like, ugh! And he would say, you only have one job, and that's school. And so we didn't hear this once. We have heard these messages about being productive, about doing this and not that from time immemorial. And then they were reinforced in society. And then it was reinforced in school if you went to a traditional school system. And you got it modeled by your siblings. So don't expect that it's going to disappear instantly. So I say all of that to say what worked for me is repetition. And what worked for me is using this process of going into the subconscious mind through multiple modalities. So life writing is one, where you actually get to write from the perspective of your younger self, so that you can finally express what you didn't get to express. I mean, at least if you grew up in my family, it was like, children are to be seen, not heard. I didn't have the right or the authority to speak back or talk back without being, severely punished. So when you can do this life writing exercise and write about what these events were like, you can do it from your adult perspective. That is very healing. But it can also be very cathartic to do it from the standpoint of your younger self. And then I lead you through guided meditations that help you go in and shower that younger, tender part of you with compassion, with forgiveness, with love, unconditional love. And through this repetition, what you're doing is you're basically righting the wrongs. You're repairing and fixing what should have been fixed, in most cases, by having some compassionate adult caregiver to kind of swoop in and say, insert what they coulda, shoulda, woulda said. We can actually do that for ourselves. And I have all of this online for you, totally free. If you need support, I'm also here to do that with private mentoring or in our group processes. Or you can just keep listening to them on and on. They're also all explained in the Real Self-Love Handbook, which is really a step-by-step process to doing this. So besides the life writing, you can do these guided meditations where either you or you call in a compassionate caregiver figure, and that can be the Buddha, it could be Christ, Mother Mary, your grandmother who passed on. You invite in a compassionate figure to give that love and attention to that younger version of you. Or you can join me on the second Tuesday of every month. I go live in a private session. So not the same here, broadcast to the whole world. We do a private Zoom session where I lead a short discussion and then a healing guided meditation so that you can get into a state where you can get into the subconscious mind. Thank you, Lena. Lena says, I felt so safe and held in the process. I am so glad. That is what is my true mission in life. So I was able to kind of go back through some of these processes that I share all the time and kind of look at the theme of my life. My mom said this in this little short documentary that one of the people at Discovery Channel made. They interviewed my mom, And she said, Andrea has always been a teacher. And, she told these stories about how somebody's parent called up and said, your daughter is offering to teach my daughter roller skating. Is that okay? And my mom was like, yeah, she's an expert at that. So, and that's kind of been my thing. It's like when I learn something or master something, or if I see someone struggling, the teacher in me naturally kicks in. And I want to just help. I want to teach. I want to coach. I want to facilitate someone else in their greatness. And that has been a red thread throughout my entire life. So yes, I'm a healer, I'm a doctor, and all that other stuff. But ultimately, what I've done with the media is teaching. And so that's why I love to do it. And having a safe space for people to heal with, creative alternate means, including art therapy, plant medicine journeys. I mean, it runs the gamut over here. Okay, so I'm going to open up to questions. Are there any questions? Thank you so much for tuning in for this broadcast. I am happy that I am now broadcasting on 3 platforms at once: YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Welcome to my LinkedIn fam. I have been not so much over there, and I'm very glad to be there now. And if you're watching on the replay, just type in the comments, #replay, and if you have questions, you can leave them there as well. Has this been helpful to you? Are there any other blocks that you want me to review? If you'd like, you can join me on Wednesday of this week. That is the 30th of December. I will be going live again at this same time. That's 8 a.m. Pacific and 5 o'clock in the afternoon for those of us in Europe. And I'm going to be going live again. So God willing, I'm going to be going live Mondays and Wednesdays. This will be my new groove because I have so missed connecting with you. I'm so glad that this was helpful. Thank you for all of the thanks and the comments. I'm grateful for that. Thank you, Elena. I'm glad to know that the Real Self-Love Handbook has been helpful for you. And Karen Joy, thank you as well. Another question came up from Kathy. How to keep myself self-weak, love-based, positive attitude, but surrounded by closed people. So it sounds like you said you're surrounded by people who are negative and have a lot of fear. So the number one practice is reconnecting to your heart, or reconnecting to Source, or Mother Earth, whatever force that allows you to recognize that there is more to us than just what we see in this 3D reality. So you're not alone. There are a lot of us surrounded by family members and coworkers, whether that's on Zoom or in the same household, who are, full of fear and that panic. And as an empath, I know how that can feel, where you're picking up on people's energy, and it can feel really stifling and very difficult for you to stay upbeat and positive. In that case, I would say double up, quadruple up on your personal me time or meditation time. So if you are in an area that you can go outside and be in nature, if you saw my little video post today, I walked out to the sea, even though it was really cold. But when I'm out in nature, that is one way that I kind of touch that pure energy, which is a little stormy, but it reminds me that there's more to me than just what's going on in my head or what I'm feeling from other people. I would quadruple the amount of time that you spend in meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be silent. I would highly recommend you do guided meditations. I'm working on an article now that outlines the 10 brain benefits that I've gotten from doing EEG neurofeedback for the last year. So if you saw that interview with one of our co-authors from Holistic Healing, Judith Pennington, I trained with her using these EEG hookups, hooking up my brain, and I've been doing these guided meditations to get into higher states of consciousness. So don't think of meditation as only just sitting quiet or focusing on your breath or a mantra. Those are wonderful because they do help you train in concentration. They do help you quiet down the parts of the brain that are associated with the ego. But if that is causing you stress, because a lot of people say, I can't, my monkey mind is just going, and I feel too frustrated, then do guided meditations. They have been clinically proven to help. I have a free one. Again, if you go to andreapennington.com, there is a little green box for the 21 days of compassion. The compassion meditation is, I've recorded it for 21 days. If you practice that, it's short. It's 8 minutes. I've included a long version for those of you that have extra time, but it's only 8 minutes a day. And that is going to help you tune into your heart, tune into the force field of compassion, which activates, I should point to the left, because it's activating these left prefrontal circuits that are associated with compassion and empathy. So if other people are draining your compassion and empathy, you need to refill. And the best way to do that is to connect with this force field of compassion. Again, I will lead on the second Tuesday in January, which I can't remember the date, but anyway. If you go to andreapennington.com, you'll see that you can sign up for free to join me on a free Zoom call where I will lead you in the guided meditation. So that's it. Get out in nature. Music, art, meditation, any form of movement, yoga, chanting, singing. These are the kinds of things that will change the energy in you. We've got to get to we've got to get into the habit of drawing up our own energy for ourselves or from nature or from the divine so that we can stay fueled up. Another question from LinkedIn. How to stay focused on goals and not let vices like too much alcohol ruin our accomplishments or goals? That is a great question. Thank you for that. Well, the first thing is vices. All right, well, that could be something that is holding you up. All right. The first thing is give yourself a goal that is not like, I'm never going to drink alcohol again, if that's something that you do, but instead make it a little more manageable. And since you're talking about goals where vices could ruin your accomplishments or goals, I would make sure, for one thing, this may not be the case for you, but one thing I would say is don't celebrate with a vice. So for example, I ran this intensive outpatient program for eating disorders. And so many people told me that they were trained from childhood, parents told them, oh, you did great on your exam, let's go out for ice cream, or oh, you skinned your knee, here's a cookie. So sometimes, I know I've given you the positive and the negative version, but sometimes we have an accomplishment or an achievement, and to celebrate, hey, let's go out for drinks and celebrate, or oh, let's go have pizza and beer or whatever. So first things first, do not tie accomplishments to any of the quote-unquote vices that are active for you. If it's not a vice for you, don't worry. You know who you are if this is an issue for you. The other thing I would say about that is you're asking how to stay focused on goals. The other thing I would say is if you are finding one of your vices is tripping you up, then learn to start setting limits and following through on that and using that as an accomplishment. So for example, everybody in behavioral therapy uses this, but let's say you are a smoker and you want to quit smoking. Well, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to quit, you could set a goal that says, okay, instead of a pack a day, I'm only going to smoke a half a pack, or diminishing, by X number of cigarettes. The same thing works with caffeine and with alcohol, because for some people, depending on how you're wired, and depending on whether this is a true addiction, you trying to go cold turkey is going to ruin your efforts. And we don't even want to talk about that downward spiral. So you can set measurable, attainable, realistic goals that are shorter and smaller, and then celebrate, not with drugs or alcohol or food, celebrate when you get there. Because here's the thing, when you get off of substances like nicotine, like alcohol, or any other recreational drug, your brain is going to be in a state where it used to get its little dopamine hit off of that substance. So when you try to cut that out, you've got to add something else in that is going to give you that sense of the dopamine. So one, you can do that nutritionally. That's a whole nother discussion. But the other thing you can do is to reward yourself. And so you're going to have to figure out how that looks for you. It could be just doing a happy dance, a high five, telling someone, hey, look, I made it. I made it to the gym 3 times this week. Or, okay, maybe you're not going to the gym. I did yoga online 3 times this week. High five me. Getting people to celebrate with you, that social recognition, can give you that little dopamine fix as well. I could do a whole broadcast on that. Okay. Thank you, Domiziana. You've gotten one of my books, The Orgasm Prescription for Women. I'm so glad. So glad. And Edebiyat, How Can We Love Ourselves? Okay, that is a whole broadcast. Well, I've got 10 hours of content on that. The Real Self-Love Handbook will explain all of that because we're getting close to time. But if that's one of the questions that is popular, I can talk about that Wednesday in my next live broadcast. Okay. In my opinion, which one of my books should you start with? Okay, Claudia, I would say the first book to start with would be The Real Self-Love Handbook. That is the most comprehensive. It's great for physical health issues, mental health issues, self-love, self-esteem, and it's a step-by-step process. It's very comprehensive, I would say, yes. Okay, so I do see some other questions coming in. We gotta wrap it up, but thank you all for being here today. I am very just excited. I'm excited to connect with people live. So if you have other questions or comments, please keep them coming. You can send me a message on the social media platform of your choice, and do come back and see me on Wednesday. Again, if you would like to take part in the Best You Yet workshop, that is January 9th and the 23rd. We're doing 3 hours on those days. They're both Saturdays. I will walk you through the exact program that I use to get clear on my values and to get clear on my goals. And I'm actually going to be doing it with you. So I'll have all of my worksheets from the past 10 years to give you like real life examples. This has been hands down the best thing for me. Not just about being productive, although productivity has always been a high thing on my mind, but also it's helped me to set clear boundaries. It helped me stop overcommitting to things that weren't fulfilling. Yes, I could do things with a high level of excellence, but I really wanted to just do things that were moving me forward on my life path, on my life's journey. And this system has been the best. So I have extended the early bird price until this Friday because so many people were out for the holidays. It's only $88. So please do, if this has been helpful to you, if you are in need of some support and you want me by your side, the first day we go through the Best You Yet system. It's asking these 10 questions live in the workshop. You'll be doing them yourself with the workbook we provide you. And then the second Saturday, which is 2 weeks later, on the 23rd of January, I will take you through my flow. Well, it's five F's, but we basically get to the point of flow. It's a productivity system that will start to help you figuring out all these goals that you've set in different areas of your life. How do you actually implement them? All the way down to how do you schedule your days from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Don't worry, you don't have to program every single day of every hour of your day. But what I noticed for myself is that I am super focused and clear-headed in the morning. From the time I wake up to the time I start interacting with the outside world. I noticed, I think it was back in 2016 or 17, I noticed this is like prime time. Why am I giving this time to social media and other people when my brain and my energy is like perfect? So I now carve that time out for me. It's my time for prayer, chanting, meditation, yoga, qigong, exercise, journaling, and sometimes, yes, creative brainstorming, because whenever I'm on the meditation cushion, I've got lots of thoughts coming as well. So I'm able to get them out before I start my day. And then I started to break up the days of the week. So there's different days that I write content versus when I'm being live with you or live with clients. So I'm going to take you through this system on the second day of the Best You Yet workshop, where we'll take the goals that you've set in day one and we will figure out how you're actually going to get it done. Because yes, we still want to be effective in the world. While I'm telling you to tune into your heart and soul, this is not airy-fairy. This is very grounded and practical. So Raquel, you can sign up for the Best You Yet workshop on my website. Just go to andreapennington.com. All right? So get in there. There is one little exercise that you get to start right away, and then I will see you on January 9th. All right, it has been so lovely to connect with you on a Monday. If you have other questions, I will be happy to take them and entertain them on Wednesday, where I will be back doing this live thing once again. So, my friends, remember this: you are a gift to the world. I don't care what crazy stuff has come up this year that may have made you feel like you are less than or a failure. Believe me when I say you are truly a gift to this world. And I know that there are so many gifts inside of you that there are people out in the world just waiting to connect with. So don't give up hope. Stay strong. And remember to share your presence with passion. Much love, everyone. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Behavior and hacked motivation to empower people to transform their lives and their business